Raw had a hugely improved episode this week compared to the last. WWE pulled out all the stops, with Big E making the headlines for obvious reasons, but it wasn't just him who made the episode good. Some of our honorable bests go out to Damian Priest and Sheamus, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, as well as Karrion Kross. All in all, Raw delivered, and here are some of the bests and worsts of the episode. Number 3, Best, keeping Drew McIntyre relevant on Raw. Ever since getting booted out of the WWE title picture on Raw, Drew McIntyre has only feuded against Jinder Mahal. That culminated at SummerSlam and McIntyre defeated his old faction member in a matter of minutes. Since then, he hasn't exactly been in any feud to note of. However, WWE has ensured to keep him relevant on the red brand by giving him TV time. This week was another example of that. Drew McIntyre teamed up with the Viking Raiders to face Jinder Mahal, Veer and Shanky. The match was over before it even started, with McIntyre getting the Claymore kick on Shanky and an easy pinfall. Although one could argue that Mahal and his group should be treated better, the promotion has made one thing clear: McIntyre is still a long-term project. While Bobby Lashley had greater success in 2021 than Drew McIntyre, there's a difference between the two. Lashley's WWE title win seemed to come out of the circumstances surrounding the pandemic and WrestleMania 37, whereas McIntyre has been a long-term plan for a while. He carried Raw in 2020, and was undoubtedly the superstar of what turned out to be the company's most unique year. The issue that WWE faced with the Scottish Warrior was this: when fans came back, he had already overstayed his welcome in the world title picture. He was a two-time champion, but he got more rematches than fans felt was warranted. There was a point where he was even getting booed, and he may not have gotten a favorable reaction had he won the Money in the Bank briefcase. Thankfully, he didn't. This is a better route to take with Drew McIntyre, as the company is slowly building him back up to return to the WWE title picture. We wouldn't be surprised to see him re-enter right away, although we feel he shouldn't. Number 2, Worst, the botched ending to Nikki ASH vs Tamina. The Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley feud against women's tag team champions Tamina and Natalya continued on Raw. This week, Nikki faced Tamina, and following that, Ripley faced Natalya. The finish to the first match was sloppy. The pin hardly looked clean, and although it was Nikki ASH who got the pinfall, Tamina's music played and even the ring announcer made a mistake by announcing her as the winner. That was undoubtedly the low point of the show this week. Rhea Ripley vs Natalya was a fairly enjoyable match, with Ripley getting the submission win over the veteran. Number 2, Best, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss Raw Women's title feud. Charlotte Flair defeated Shayna Baszler on Raw, with Nia Jax causing the distraction this week. Last week, Baszler distracted Jax and cost her a potential Raw Women's title win against the Queen. The pair seems to have broken up and will face off on the red brand next week, but that seems to be secondary. Charlotte Flair was given a gift by Alexa Bliss, her title challenger at Extreme Rules 2021. Flair's gift was a lookalike doll named Charlie, who was eventually trashed backstage. The feud is surprisingly interesting, and feels like a breath of fresh air. Bliss was once criticized for being too involved in the Raw Women's division between 2017 and 2018, but she hasn't been a singles champion in over 3 years. It's funny how time can change that perception. It's good to see her back in the women's title mix. Number 1, Worst, no real payoff to Doudrop vs Eva Marie on Raw. Doudrop and Eva Marie finally had their match on Raw. While it was originally scheduled for a few weeks ago, the former attacked Marie pre-match and she was deemed unfit to compete. This week, they finally had their payoff match, with Doudrop squashing Eva Marie for the win. It was certainly the right way to go about it, but the overall payoff felt underwhelming in the end. With that said, there isn't much else that could have been done. Perhaps WWE could have stuck with the pairing longer than they did. Number 1, Best, Big E's WWE title win. The only real way to conclude this edition of Best and Worst of Raw is with the central point of the show: Big E and his WWE title win. Bobby Lashley vs Randy Orton was moved from Extreme Rules to the Monday Night Show, and the New Day member announced that he would cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase beforehand. This seemed to be classic trolling by the company. But that wasn't the case. Lashley retained the WWE title against Orton and Big E cashed in as expected. He is now the new WWE champion, and it received a huge pop. A new era on Raw begins next week with Big E. WWE filed for a Brock Lesnar trademark on September 8, 2021. Brock Lesnar made his big return to WWE at SummerSlam 2021 and confronted Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Lesnar and Reigns faced off again on the latest edition of WWE SmackDown. As per a report by Fightful, WWE has filed for a Brock Lesnar-related trademark for the phrase, "Eat, Sleep, Conquer, Repeat." The trademark has been filed for merchandising purposes. Check out the full description, courtesy Fightful. Lesnar made his WWE main roster debut immediately following WrestleMania 18 in 2002. Lesnar went on to become one of the fiercest entities in all of WWE and defeated The Rock to become the youngest WWE champion in history. Brock Lesnar left WWE in 2004 and returned to the company 8 long years later. During his absence, Lesnar became a major mainstream attraction thanks to his UFC run. Lesnar's second WWE run was a bigger success than the first. The Beast Incarnate defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania XXX in 2014 in one of the biggest surprises in wrestling history. Mere months later, Lesnar squashed John Cena at SummerSlam to become the WWE World Champion. Lesnar put down some of WWE's biggest stars over the next 6 years or so, notably Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Goldberg, and Kofi Kingston. Brock Lesnar made his intentions clear on the latest edition of the Blue Brand. He wants to take on Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. The last time Lesnar held the belt was way back in 2019. He lost the title to Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2019 and, later, set his sights on Kofi Kingston's WWE title. Lesnar is back with a bang, and his eventual showdown with the Tribal Chief is going to be an event that the WWE Universe wouldn't want to miss. Big E cashed in his Money in the Bank contract on Bobby Lashley to capture his first WWE Championship on the latest episode of Monday Night Raw. Many wrestlers reacted to E's massive win, including the Universal Champion himself Roman Reigns. For several weeks, Big E teased cashing in his contract on the Tribal Chief by confronting Reigns' special counsel Paul Heyman backstage on SmackDown. He flaunted his briefcase at Heyman, reminding the latter that he has the opportunity to dethrone the Universal Champion for the title at any time. Big E, however, decided to go after the almighty Bobby Lashley instead, and was successful in his endeavor. Now, Reigns has taken to Twitter to send a message to the newly crowned WWE Champion, informing him that he made a smart decision by picking Lashley. Big E's WWE title triumph will undoubtedly go down as one of the greatest moments of the year. While he has held multiple championships in the company, his massive win on the Red Brand was the highlight of his career. After the show, Big E commented on winning the title in a backstage interview. "It's the moments that I think that I really treasure," said Big E. "I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the moment. I go out and the music hits, and that crowd has already seen me a dozen times tonight. To have people, to have peers, gets interrupted by the new day. It means the world to me. I think the dream for anyone in any vocation or craft is getting to do really cool things to get to the top of your craft, but to do it with your best friends." Big E is a talented star and is immensely popular with fans as a singles competitor and as a member of the New Day. The trio were even named the greatest tag team in WWE history by the company.